Hello, my beautiful souls, and welcome to your weekly dose of truth tarot. I'm Terry Ann Nikitas, and we're going to check in and see, am I growing or just spinning my wheels? So, we want to, this is about obviously personal growth. We're on our fourth week of personal growth. And this is May 16th to the 22nd. Please like, share, and subscribe. Really helps out my channel. Maybe we could get some, you know, uh, payment for it at some point so that I can do more tarot for all of you. All right. So we're going to look at three cards again. So we're going to look at where we're at, so where you are at. The second is whether you're in some kind of dynamic motion. It could be passive, there could be stagnation, or possibly we've got actual um, movement in the direction of growth or whatever it is that you need to do. And the last one will be, what's your next move? So think about your journey, even what's going on with you now and where maybe you want to go. And that will really tune into whether you're passive dynamic or you're actually in a stagnant position or you're ready to move or in movement. That's actual physical movement. When you're in passive dynamic, it means all of the activity is going on within, but you don't necessarily need to be moving in the direction of let's say, steps you need to take and so forth. So, so what we're going to look at is number one. Let's see our first card. I'm shuffling, and I'm just going to like open it up and see. All right. So this is forming structure and solid foundation. Let's see if I can get the camera a little closer. Looks a little blurry to me, that it's not really giving you a total sense of what this needs to look like. Let's switch the camera around and it'll show it upright. Maybe even just bring the arm a little bit lower. Let me see if I can do that. It's very annoying that it doesn't go quite low enough. All right. So here we go. This says forming, this says structure, and this says solid foundations. So we could say that where we're at the moment, the exact position would be that sense of, okay, what we're doing here is actually in that um, passive dynamic uh, arena where the formation of the structure, creating that foundation is happening, which is really lovely. So it isn't stagnation. So be careful in this moment not to be calling it stagnation. So if you're looking at, hey, I'm not doing things, you really need to say, no, no, no. I am not in stagnation. This can also be because this is about personal growth. Bird is really active here, right, baby? All right. So if you're thinking, oh my God, I'm actually stagnating, I'm not really um, in growth, you need to start to um, look at that from a different perspective. Just look at it from a different direction. Give yourself the moment to go, wait a minute. Sometimes things have to be, anytime I speak, he's talking, right? Sometimes things have to, what is it, Bert? What is it that you want to say? Yeah. That's a lot of activity from his little mouth, isn't it? Yes. All right. So if we're creating the foundation, even if it looks stagnant. It's not. There is something that is creating itself in the passive dynamic energy. So it can be adjusting. So if you think of your body mind as something that sometimes needs to sit still, but there's plenty of stuff going on within. So birds, I don't know where he's going. What is it? Here, can hang out here. That's a birdie. So there we go. Now let's see what we're going to look at as um, whether we're in motion or stagnation. I think I've already answered that. Even though this is where you're at is a place where your structure and your solid foundation will form, and then we're already predicting here that we're actually um, well, we'll see where we're going. Because that's also important. Sorry, I kind of answered the second question in the first, but that doesn't mean it's answered the second question. So, formation, structure, and solid foundation does mean there is a passive dynamism going on. Let's see where it's going to go. I think I need to change the question because I kind of answered it. I like this one here. Where is it going to go? So, this is thoughts and isolation. All right, so that's quite important. This is going to determine how that foundation is growing. So when we or that foundational growth or what we're reestablishing as our foundations. So when you're in this experience, let's say you're feeling a little bit depressed and you're stuck with your thoughts. It's I kind of get this image of a desktop and a little brush, and I'm just brushing off those thoughts. And I may need that. You may need this isolation to be able to brush that off. Number one. Number two, your thoughts should not have the dominance or the authority to determine what your experience is about. So your thoughts should not have this dominance nor authority to determine where you're at. It's so important. There are so many different ways. People call it meditation or just being detached, but in this case, it comes up as dominance because if I look at the formation of my structure and creating a solid foundation for myself, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, I'm isolated in there, and I've got so many thoughts about things. Well, to create that solid foundation, I need to see the foundation, not the thoughts uh, that say this is what that foundation is about and what you're like. Well, you need to. Well, let's see what the next card is to give us the next words because I don't know what they are. And the next word is avoidance and stalemate. So this is not um, a great outcome as your next move because avoidance, usually what we avoid comes back with a vengeance. So it would tell you that your next move is to not avoid building that foundation. So here you have this idea of growth, and also we didn't define growth, which I think it was bugging me at the beginning. I mean, people use this term so often. What is it that grows? And when I asked a question today, uh, well, when I formulated the question a few days ago, I didn't think of it as being my typical joke was, you know, am I growing? And I often think of it as my bum spreading out or, my waistline growing. And that's my stupid joke. Sorry, it's my silly joke that I make. But it was coming to me as I started, and it sort of increased in discomfort as I went along from, hey, look, we're making a foundation. Fantastic. That is passive dynamic energy. So everything is answered in the first card, which makes a lot of sense. It's like, well, if I'm in passive dynamic and I'm creating those foundations, that's occurring with or without my consciousness. That means I'm in motion without actively stepping into it, but there's an activity going on internally. And my next move would be, obviously, what would be most predictable is I'm going to set that into my world. It's going to manifest in my relationships, it's going to manifest in my work and my business. All of those things are going to occur. Problematic here is that the actual passive dynamism that occurs within can be usurped and tyrannized by thoughts, and those thoughts can can then cause within us this idea that, oh my god, because I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, or I'm not, I don't feel any different in my life, will avoid the very things that require excuse me, our engagement. And that engagement, um, determines that, okay, so I haven't grown, I haven't changed, I haven't evolved, which is happening all the time, by the way, even when you go through your difficult times. But I haven't done all these things. So now, all I'm going to do is isolate, avoid, and then I'm in a stalemate and I'm going to critique myself, which goes back to the thinking. So here's the journey. Right now, there's a passive dynamism. You don't need to, go to a therapist. You don't need to do anything. There is something already going on internally, whether it's the planets, whether it's just because you tune into my station, because that's not a an ego thing. That is what you are attracted to in any given moment. And if you are attracted to come here and listen to this, well, it's saying something about what you need to hear. And what you need to hear is, well, wait a minute, something is going on within me, that my foundations, that that I'm making something more solid with which I can experience growth. Now let's define growth. I want the cards to tell me what growth they're talking about. Oh, okay. So it's all about self worth. All about self worth. So that's very, very specific, extremely specific, meaning um, the foundations that we're going to be looking at when it comes to growth is all about your self worth. Now, it also says expectations on this card. Now, the difficulty with expectations is that whatever we expect will likely end up in disappointment. I'm sorry, but it's allergy season, and my lungs are experiencing irritation from the melting of the earth, and molds and dust and everything coming up. So it's been a little bit of a struggle these last few weeks. So here we go. If I look at my self-worth, or you're going to be looking at your self-worth, it's not that your self-worth grows. You, as whomever you are, is worthy as a human. But in this case, it's how you value your worth. So you're going to have a lot of thoughts that create isolation, and then you're going to want to avoid experiencing your world. So here we need to go, well, wait a minute. I have self worth, whatever that is, whatever that means. The thoughts that I have are those things that are going to pretend to give me more value, or pretend to reduce my value, when that can't happen. Because your behaviors, your experiences, your failures, your successes are not a statement of your worth. Right? And it's a little bit hard to be totally philosophical here without having someone to talk to and ask more questions. So if I ask another question, Um, and this kind of goes to the idea that if we knew the truth about everything and how everything functions, we might just give up. And we can't give up. We need to have the faith that even in light of, okay, I failed at this, I wasn't successful, you have enough self reflection to say that it doesn't matter that I failed at that. I can move on and create something else that is going to bring me whatever I need to do. But that requires almost a breakdown of the way you have perceived yourself in the past. Now, that's a difficult statement. That's not something that is really easy to do. But if you use this moment in time to say that your body mind is as in the process of restructuring, because we've got structure forming solid foundation. So there's a formation going on of the structure and the foundation with which your growth and your potential is occurring. If your thoughts invade, it will isolate. If you avoid all of this growth by, falling prey to the authoritarian and tyrannical aspects of the engagement with your thinking process and your not your thinking process, your thoughts, right? Thinking through something is very different than you having thoughts and those thoughts author you. It's very different. They're very, very different things. I can have a ton of thoughts, they're running around. If I look at one of the first people I had read about this subject is G.I. Gurdjieff, and I can't remember which book I read it in, but he says it's absolutely ridiculous that all of these thoughts that we have mean anything. They don't mean anything. Thinking is very different. Thinking is a function of this body mind, right? We're able to think, we're able to discern, we can make a proper judgment about something. We can discern, we can figure out what's good and bad for us, what's healthy or unhealthy. We can do that. But if I am, just imbued in the soup of all of my thoughts, I'm in big trouble. But if I look at my thoughts and go, those have nothing to do with me, they're sure a bunch of, we make a lot of poop in the body. We make poop literally from our digestive system, and we have a lot of thoughts that are poop. If we focus on them, they will become a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more ingrained in our brains. We'll even create the connections because our brain is neuroplastic. If I keep focusing on my thoughts, I'm going to create those or actually solidify those connections. This is literally telling us, wait a minute, for growth, we can allow the formations and structure of some good foundations as it relates to self-worth. This is the growth we're talking about, and kind of obliterate via detachment. We can disassociate from thoughts just by seeing their nature. They're just a bunch of thoughts. Again, I will repeat because so many people mistake this. They'll think that their thoughts and thinking are the same thing. No, bad thinking is thinking about my thoughts, thinking about what someone said. Why is it bad? Well, it becomes, obsessive. You can become paranoid. You can focus on that, which is ultimately a fantasy. And there you go. You get that stalemate, right? You get the stalemate. But if you can focus or I don't know about focus, but if you can do this week, this would be your presentation this week for yourself. Every time I'm having a bunch of thoughts that have nothing to do with um, making nothing to do with having a good or positive experience, why don't I just dump them? Now, I'm not talking about I have a problem I need to solve. Of course it's going to be difficult. You may even look at it and go, this is also painful to me. Sure. But there needs to be a solid discernment between what is difficult that is possible to resolve and what is difficult and impossible to resolve. You cannot resolve your thoughts. They're there. There's a bunch of them. The more you focus on them, the more the brain is going to go, okay, let's focus there. Let's focus there. Let's focus there. So, a simple example is you're on a diet and you think about food all the time, and sure, it works really well because you're thinking about your calories, your consumption. This is the only thing I can eat. I'm not going to eat this. I'm not going to eat that. And of course, the more you do that, the more you think about food. And then one day you go off your diet, and all of a sudden you're just thinking about food and you're thinking about bad food now. It doesn't really work. It's obsessive. Now, some people will say I'm very successful by thinking about my diet all the time. I can understand that that works as well. I'm just giving you a scenario in which, oh no, that doesn't work. For some people, because of the dynamic they're experiencing, they're thinking about food in a different way. I can bring up many examples, and you could bring up the opposite as well. Anything that someone says, the opposite can come in. But if you can feel into, hey, wait a minute, my thoughts are superfluous, my actions and things that might, like, let's say somebody um, gets up and thinks about exactly what they're going to eat all day, they set it up, that could be very practical. But if you're obsessively thinking about food all the time, those thoughts will never go away. And then the minute, you flip to the other side, it's like going into a different personality. All of a sudden, you're eating like crazy. It is so much better to have your gut brain discern exactly what you need to eat. That means you should not be interfering in what you eat or you don't eat. Of course, that's happens for many, many people. Many people go, "Oh, I overate, right? Too much sugar," and they are just fine. The next day, they go back to a balance. They maybe put on half a pound, and within the next few days, they're back to their regular weight, or they remain between, a 4 pound variation or 5 pound variation over their lifetime. They might lose weight in the winter and then have to regain it in the summer, might go a little bit overboard, and that would be natural cycle. Then some of us, for whatever reasons that occur in our childhood and conditioning, we don't have that discernment in the gut. And by the way, all of this consciousness that I'm talking about occurs in the gut brain. You can even probably separate out the gallbladder and the function of the gallbladder in relationship to what I've just described, right? So if my mind is disappointed, um, if I find that I can't make proper decisions, I'm not making healthy decisions in my life, I know something is going on in the gallbladder. Okay, so yeah, let's look at that, and maybe this week what you can do is just say, hey, I'm going to look at um, that I am worthy. You might not believe it. Okay, that's not the point here. When you're focusing on your self-worth and then from there allowing your personal growth to support you in your life, in your relationships, in your work, in your parenting, whatever you're doing in your life and your experiences, you can start to see all the thoughts that create expectations around your self-worth. And slowly you can look at it and go, wait a minute, those are only thoughts. They have nothing to do with reality. Nothing. Nothing to do with reality. I find this one of the most helpful things to do in my life. I've done so many different techniques, but this is the one that helps in the greatest possible way. All right. Hope you have a great week. And please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you next week. Have a great day and week.